So the People's National Party have launched their manifesto yesterday, August the 12th, in the year of our Lord 2025. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm saying this to you, that the manifesto lacks substance. We don't need no three-card men, ladies and gentlemen, to run this country. Because they are promising to lower electricity costs when they are the cause of it in the first place. And how are they going to do it? Are they going to go solar, 100% solar? That's the only way the electricity costs can be lowered at this time, because they are the one that caused it to be this high in the first place. So promising lower electricity costs is one of their three-card promises. And ladies and gentlemen, I hear they are saying that we should reject the Prime Minister based on his uncertified statutory declaration. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot go against somebody based on rumors. The Prime Minister have no criminal conviction. Up until this day, he have not been convicted of any crime. So we cannot vote against somebody based on rumors. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we can't vote against somebody based on something that he have no control over. His uncertified statutory declaration have nothing at all to do with him hiding anything. It have everything to do with the Integrity Commission, the so-called Integrity Commission, ladies and gentlemen, having a problem with him, with what he declared. So we cannot vote against the Prime Minister based on that. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot reject the Prime Minister because he is doing a very good job. In every constituency, the Prime Minister have done something. Even in the one controlled by the PNP MPs, who is collecting their constituency development fund and not doing anything. Because I hear they're screaming for Michael Phillips' head in Manchester, and all those other constituencies, including the one that Angela Brown-Burke control. I hear they're screaming for her head, although I know that's a PNP stronghold. So no matter what they're saying about Angela Brown-Burke, I know that they're going to put her back there and expect to get different results. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why would I be rejecting a Prime Minister who for the past 9 years we have seen him working? We have seen the work that he has done. We have seen the accomplishment that he has made. We have seen where he took Jamaica from, and where Jamaica is under his leadership in a much better position. He took Jamaica from high debt, ladies and gentlemen, to low debt. He took Jamaica, ladies and gentlemen, from low minimum wage to a reasonable minimum wage. Minimum wage have increased 3 times under his administration. We cannot vote against a Prime Minister who have built or refurbished the police station. We cannot vote against the Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, who have fixed our roads. Though not all the roads are fixed, but he has fixed our roads. Places where water had never been before for a very long time have portable water coming through their pipes right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot vote against a Prime Minister like that. We cannot vote against a God-fearing Prime Minister who believe, ladies and gentlemen, that the poor should also get a piece of the pie, not just the rich. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot vote against a Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, who have freed up the skill training program. Now your children can be trained at all levels up until the 3rd level, ladies and gentlemen, where they can get job, and they get a stipend while they get a stipend while they are on training, and they get money also in their accounts. You know, a savings account is established for them so that after they finish their training, they can start their business. Ladies and gentlemen, We cannot vote against a government that is building Jamaica like that. For a three-card man putting out some thing that's so nice in their manifesto, ladies and gentlemen, but lacks substance. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are sure of what Mr. Holness have done. Mark Golding and the People's National Party, we are sure that they are not even going to deliver not even 1% of what they presented in the manifesto, because we have tried them before over and over again based on their nice fancy talk. And ladies and gentlemen, we do not get different result. We get the same result, ladies and gentlemen. High taxes, bad policies that keep the poor poor. We rather vote for the Jamaica Labour Party, who invested in the country and then give the dividends back to the people. We have never in the history of Jamaica gotten that under the People's National Party. From Jamaica gained independence until now, we have never seen the People's National Party's government giving back tax reverse to the citizens of this country because of the surplus of the good management of the economy. We are not going to vote against a Prime Minister who took us through storm and through COVID, ladies and gentlemen, and have not wrecked the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot vote against a Prime Minister who is doing so very well. Ladies and gentlemen, look at the social housing program. The PNP used to give out board house. Ladies and gentlemen, that as you strike a match, you have to be careful, because you lay that match careless, you strike that match carelessly, that house is on fire, burned down. Board house. What I have seen the Prime Minister doing is giving out houses that real concrete house that looks good, that looks like one of those houses that we would pay mortgage for. Ladies and gentlemen, for many years it's been hard for low-income people to get houses from the NHT because they are asking for a very high closing cost, ladies and gentlemen. Closing costs that the low-income persons cannot afford. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Holness have put it that you can use 3,500 as your closing cost so that you can get your house from the NHT. And ladies and gentlemen, all those money you're paying for rent could now go towards your mortgage. So I am even taking this opportunity to encourage you all, ladies and gentlemen, to go and apply for your house. Go and apply for your house. If you're an NHT contributor, it's not hard to get your house. We're not going to vote against a government who has brought in the rural school bus system. I don't care if they want to mock the buses and say all sort of rumors about them. We cannot vote against the Jamaica Labour Party based on rumors, as I said before. We cannot, ladies and gentlemen, vote against a government who have improved the JUTC bus system, because under the People's National Party they brought in these white buses that caught fire very easily on the road, ladies and gentlemen. When you stand up in those buses, when those buses start to drive, you would fall. Those buses were just not ready, ladies and gentlemen. But the Jamaica Labour Party brought in some buses, ladies and gentlemen, that are comfortable, looks luxurious. If you ever step in one of those buses, it's like you're a tourist, ladies and gentlemen. The fare is reasonable and the ride is comfortable, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot vote against a government that is doing all these things. We can't vote against a government that is reducing crime, ladies and gentlemen, that has reduced crime. We can't vote on promises. We have to vote on performance, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, I say of the People's Manifesto, the People's National Party Manifesto, thumbs down. You're a three-card man and we cannot trust you. We say JL.